Shalom, family, shalom, right? So today we gonna be dealing with John 3 and 16 contextually. I pray everybody's having a good day, right? I pray everybody's abounding in His truth, abounding in the work of the Lord, right? So let's go right into it. John 3 and 16. This is the book of this is the book of John, chapter 3 and verse 16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. Now, before we get into that breakdown real quick, let me show you just how much Christianity twists things, right? Let's get Matthew 1 and 21. Watch this. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 1 and 21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. From Matthew to John, when did that change? That didn't change. But you see, Christian ideology and their doctrine has been, for some of us, has been imputed in our minds since we were kids. So when we hear these things, it sounds right. Even for some of us now. Here in John 3:16, some of us still can't believe it. Because it's been imputed in us so long. Right? But that's why you got to stand to these scriptures, right? Ask the Most High to remove blinders off your eyes and give you the proper understanding, right? Let's go back to John 3 and 16. This is the book of John, chapter 3 and 16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. He's talking about the same people in Matthew. Let's prove that through the Spirit, right? Let's start at verse 14. Watch this. This is John chapter 3 and 14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the Son of Man must be lifted up. Who was in the wilderness? The 12 tribes of Israel, right? Why was the serpent lifted up in the wilderness, right? Because the children of Israel was vexed with a sickness, right? And the Most High gave Moses instructions to cast the serpent down and then lift it up, right? And then they would be healed. Let's get that in Numbers 21 and 9. Let's go to Numbers 21 and 9 and get that. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 21 and verse 9. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. Right? So the Most High instructed Moses to do that, because if you read the next chapter before that, we're not going to do that because we don't have that much time, right? But if you read chapter before that, they had got sick. So the Most High said, make this serpent of brass or whatever. And whoever get bit, once they get bit by it, they go get healed. Because a lot of them were sick. So he said once they get bit by it, they go get healed, right? So the Most High said, even as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So, translation, even as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, why did he lift the serpent? To heal the people that were sick. Even so must the Son of Man must be lifted up. Why do the Son of Man need to be lifted up? To save his people, right? Let's go back to John 3 and 16. Let's go back to John 3 and 16, right? Let's go back to John 3 and 16, right? This is the book of John, chapter 3, right? And verse 16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever perish should not believe Him, but have everlasting life, right? So if we read that contextually, we know who that's talking about. That's talking about the children of Israel, right? Let's further prove that. Let's get John 18 and 20. Let's get John 18 and 20. This is the book of John, chapter 18 and verse 20. Jesus answered him, I spake openly to the world. This is the book of John, chapter 18 and verse 20. This is Christ talking to Peter and the other disciples. Jesus answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, where the Jews always resort, and in secret have I said nothing. So the Most High compared the world as to speaking in front of all His people, right? This is how you understand the similitudes in the Bible. Just because it say world don't mean it's talking about everybody, right? And it's not. And let's further prove that. Let's get John 17 and 9. The world He's talking about is Israel, right? He spoke openly to the world in the synagogues. He had all 12 tribes. That's what He's saying. He spoke openly to the world where the Jews resort. That's what He's saying, right? You guys got to remember, Old English language terminology is different from these times, right? Let's further prove this, right? Let's get John 17 and 9. This is the book of John, chapter 17 and verse 9. I pray for them I pray not for the world, but for them which has given me, for they are mine. Christ is talking to his Father in this scripture. He said, I pray for them, not for the world, which you have given me, because they are mine. He don't pray for nobody else. He's calling his people his. He said they are mine. Let's further prove that real quick. Let's get Amos chapter 3. Let's get Amos chapter 3. Let's get Amos chapter 3. This is the book of Amos chapter 3 and verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I have brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, the whole family meaning all the children of Israel, right? You only have I known of all the families on earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. The Most High said, us only has he known out of all the families. See, when you deal with this contextually, it doesn't make sense. Just how you know we've been lied to, right? Let's further go into that, right? Last scripture, family, I'm proving John 3 and 16, right? It's talking about the world of the Israelites, right? Isaiah 45 and 17. Isaiah 45 and 17. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 45. And I'm going to show y'all one more thing after this. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 45 and verse 17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, a world without end. And because then you say world without end, that's another lesson, because we're going to rule in the kingdom forever, man. World without end. We're going to have a world without end, right? The world is talking about is Israel. It's not talking about anybody else. Last scripture. Let's get Hebrews 1 and 1. Let's get Hebrews 1 and 1, right? This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 1 and verse 1. God, who at sundry times and diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, having these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. It's an S, worlds, right? And a lot of brothers bring these scriptures out, but you know, it's no other scripture with the world. What other the world is? Sirach 5 and 12. If a man don't have understanding, some put his hand over his mouth, right? It's some things you're not gonna be able to explain, right? It's some things that's gonna be left for a mystery and for a wonder, right? Besides what we can prove, right? But it's other dimensions out there. It's other worlds. When we're just showing you how they took scriptures and they just used them to make their points fit and not contextually proving precept upon precept, right? And really and truly, I don't even have to go into nothing else. I can do John 3 and 14 through 16. That John 3 and 14 cut everything. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man lift me. Why did Moses lift up the serpent in the wilderness? To save his people. Even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Why do the Son of Man need to be lifted up? To save his people. Matthew 1 and 21. She shall send forth a son and he shall save his people. That's why even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Right? It's not that hard to understand. Right? Lord willing, through the Spirit, people got some edification through this, right? Lord willing, some people were edified. And Lord willing, we stay in the Spirit and we continue to bound in the Lord's work, right? Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call halal, Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shabbarakatham. Shalom.